Greetings to all of you. A warm welcome to all of you, my dear sisters and brothers and my dear friends, to a new meditation, a story that I will tell in the situation of He Still Moves Stones. This is Reverend Yeti. Today I'm gonna talk about Don't Miss the Party, the dungeon of the bitter. The older son was in the field, and as he came closer to the house, he heard the sound of music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked what all this meant. The servant said, "Your brother has come back, and your father killed the fat calf because your brother came home safely." The older son was angry and would not go into the feast. So his father went out and begged him to come in. But the old son said to his father, "I have served you like a slave for many years, and have always obeyed your commands. But you never gave me even a young goat to have at a feast with my friends. But your other son, who wasted all your money on prostitutes, comes home, and you kill the fat calf for him?" The father said to him, "Son, you are always with me, and all that I have is yours. We had to celebrate and be happy because your brother was dead, but now he is alive. He was lost, but now he is found." Luke 15, the verses 25 to 32. The older son was angry and would not go into the feast. Luke 15:28. The case of the elder brother, a difficult one because he looked so good. He kept his room straight and his nose clean. He played with the rules and paid all his duties. He paid all his dues. His resume, impeccable. His credit, squeaky clean, and loyalty. While his brother was sowing wild oats, he stayed home and sowed the crops. On the outside he was everything a father could want in a son, but on the inside he was sore and hollow, overcome by jealousy, consumed by anger, blinded by bitterness. You remember this story. It's perhaps the best known of all of parables Jesus told. It's the third of 3 stories in Luke 15, 3 stories of 3 parties. The first began after a shepherd found a sheep had lost. He had 99 others. He could have been content to write this one off as a loss, but shepherds don't think like businessmen. So he searched for it. When he found a sheep, he carried it back to the flock, cut the best grass for the sheep to eat, and had a party to celebrate. The second party was held in front of a house. A housewife had lost a coin. It wasn't her only coin, but you would have thought that it was by the way she acted. She moved the furniture, got out the dust mop and swept the whole house till she found it. And when she did, she ran shouting into the cul-de-sac and invited her neighbors over for the party to celebrate. And there is the story of the lost son, the boy who broke his father's heart by taking his inheritance and taking off. He traded his dignity for a whiskey bottle and his self-respect for a gig pen. Then comes the son's sorrow and his decision to go home. He hopes his dad will give him a job on the farm and an apartment over the garage. What he finds is a father who has kept his absent son's place set at the table and the porch light on every night. The father is so excited to see his son, you'll never guess what he does. And that's right, he throws a party. We party loving prodigals love. What he did. But infuriated the elder brother. The older son was angry. It's not hard to see why. So, is this how a guy gets recognition in this family? Get drunk and go broke, and you get a party? So he sat outside the house and put it. The big brother felt he was a victim of iniquity. When his father came out to meet him, the son started at the top, listed the atrocities of his life. To hear him say it, his woes began the day he was born. I have served you like a slave for many years, and have always obeyed your commands, but you never gave me even a young goat to have at a feast with my friends. But your other son, who wasted all your money and prostitutes, comes home, and you killed the fat calf for him. Appears that both sons spent time in the pig pen, one in the pen of rebellion, and the other in the pen of self-pity. The younger one has come home. The older one hasn't. He's still in the slop. He is saying the same thing you said when the kid down the street got a bicycle and you didn't. It's not fair. And I'm going to tell you a story. That's what Wanda Holloway of Channelview, Texas said, when it looked like her 14-year-old daughter wouldn't get elected to the cheerleading squad. Wanda got angry. She decided to get even. She hired a hitman to kill the mother of her daughter's chief competitor, hoping to so upset the girl that Wanda's daughter would make the squad. Bitterness will do that to you. It'll cause you to burn down your house, to kill a rat. Fortunately, her plan failed, and Wanda Holloway was caught. She was sentenced to 15 years. She didn't have to be put behind the bars to be pregnant, however. Bitterness is its own prison. Black and cold bitterness denies easy escape. The sides are slippery with resentment. A floor of muddy anger stills the feet. The stench of betrayal fills the air and stings the eyes. A cloud of self-pity blocks the view of the tiny exit above. Step in and look at the prisoners. Victims are chained to the walls. Victims of betrayal. Victims of abuse. Victims of the government, the system, the military, the world. They lift their change as they lift their voices and wail. Loud and long they wail, they grumble. They're angry at others who got what they didn't. They sulk, the world is against them. They accuse, the picture of their enemies are darted to the wall. They boast, I followed the rules, I played fairly, in fact better than anybody else. They whine, nobody listened to me, nobody remembers me, nobody cares about me. Angry, sullen, accusations, arrogant, whiny. Put them all together in one word and spell it bitter. B-I-T-T-E-R. If you put them all in one person, that person is in the pit, the dungeon of bitterness. The dungeon, deep and dark, is beckoning you to enter. You can, you know. You've experienced enough hurt. You've been betrayed enough times. You have a history of rejections, don't you? Haven't you been left out, left behind, or left out in the cold? You are a candidate for the dungeon. You can choose, like many, to chain yourself to your hurt. Or you can choose, like some, to put away your hurts before they become hates. You can choose to go to the party. You have a place there. Your name is beside the plate. If you are a child of God, no one can take away your sonship. Which is precisely what the father said to the older son. Son, you are always with me, and all that I have is yours. And that is precisely what God the Father says to you. How does God deal with your bitter heart? He reminds you that what you have is more important than what you don't have. You still have your relationship with God, and no one can take that. No one can touch that. Your health can be taken and your money stolen, but your place at God's table is permanent. The brother was bitter because he focused on what he didn't have and forgot what he did have. His father reminded him and us that he had everything he had always had. He had his job, his place, his name, his inheritance. The only thing he didn't have was the spotlight. And because he wasn't content to share it, he missed the party. It takes courage to set aside jealousy and rejoice with the achievements of a revival, of the rival. Would you like an example of someone who did? Standing before 10,000 eyes is Abraham Lincoln. An uncomfortable Abraham Lincoln. His discomfort comes not from the thought of delivering his first inaugural address, but from the ambition efforts of well-meaning tailors. His unaccustomed to such attire. Formal black dress coat, silk vest, black trousers, and a glossy top hat. He holds a huge ebony cane with a golden head the size of an egg. He approaches the platform with hat in one hand and cane in the other. He doesn't know what to do with either one. In the nervous silence that comes after the applause and before the speech, he searches for a spot to place them. He finally leans the cane in a corner of the railing, but he still doesn't know what to do with the hat. He could lay it on the podium, but it would take up too much room before the floor. No, too dirty. Just then, and not a moment too soon, a man steps forward and takes the hat, returns to his seat, and listens intently to Lincoln's speech. Who is he? Lincoln's dearest friend. The president said of him, "He and I are about the best friends in the world." He was one of the strongest supporters of the early stages of Lincoln's presidency. He was given the honor of escorting Miss Lincoln in the inaugural Grand Ball as the storm of the Civil War began to boil. Many of Lincoln's friends left, but not this one. He amplified his loyalty by touring the South as Lincoln's peace ambassador. He begged Southerners not to secede and Northerners to rally behind the president. His efforts were great, but the wave of anger was greater. The country did divide, and civil war bloodied the nation. Lincoln's friend never lived to see it. He died 3 months after Lincoln's inauguration. Wearied by his travels, he succumbed to a fever, and Lincoln was left to face the war alone. Upon hearing the news of his friend's death, Lincoln wept openly and ordered the White House flag to float at half-staff. Some feel Lincoln's friend would have been chosen as a running mate in 1864 and would thus have become president following the assassination of the great emancipator. No one will ever know about that, but we do know that Lincoln had one true friend, and we can only imagine the number of times the memory of him brought warmth to a cold Oval Office. He was a model of friendship. He was also a model of forgiveness. This friend could just as easily have been an enemy. Long before he and Lincoln were allies, they were competitors, politicians pursuing the same office, and unfortunately their debates are better known than their friendship. The debates between Abraham Lincoln and his dear friend Stephen A. Douglas. But on Lincoln's finest day, Douglas set aside their differences and held the hand of the president. Unlike the older brother, Douglas heard a higher call, and unlike the older brother, he was present at the party. Wise are we if we do the same. Wise are we if we rise above our hurts, for if we do, we'll be present at the Father's final celebration, a party to end all parties, a party where no pothers will be permitted. Why don't you come and join the fun? God invites you. Have a blessed, enjoyable, very interesting day, a late afternoon, an evening, and a good night's sleep for those who are already around that far in the clock time, if I may say it like that. Bye.